What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you for stopping by as always. And today I bring you the top 5 DPS builds to use for PvP. Let's go ahead and roll the footage. So before we get into today's topic, I just want to make a special shout out to you guys, and by saying thank you for all the support and the growth on my channel for the past couple months. I just really appreciate it, and I will continue to make more videos for you guys in the future. And if you guys are new, welcome to the channel, and please make sure to subscribe and like the video if you find it useful, and turn on your post notifications so you don't miss another drop in the future. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So coming into number 5 is the armor Regen, and I'm utilizing this with the exotic chest plate of the RIDGEWAY's Pride. And the reason why this exotic works so well for an armor Regen build is because of this talent, Bleeding Edge. Shooting enemies within 15 meters applies bleed to the target, and repair 3 to 48% of your armor per second for every enemy that is bleeding within 15 meters. And repair strength per number of bleeding enemies increases the more enemies you have on bleed. So 1 is 3%, 2 enemies 6, and so on, right? And the reason why this chest plate works so well for an armor Regen build is because it is being paired in conjunction with the named golden backpack called the Anarchist Cookbook that gives you the talent Perfectly Wicked. Applying a status effect increases your total weapon damage by 18% for 27 seconds. And mine came with 162,000 armor, max crit damage, 5.8% crit chance, and 11.9 crit damage mod. And it's great to utilize a 2-piece golem because the 1 piece gives you a 10% status effects that is guaranteed with the RIDGEWAY's Pride as long as you are within 15 meters, and the 1% armor Regen for that great survivability. Now, since these two are the combo makers, how I like to set it up is just fulfilling in the gaps in between for damage and more Regen. And how I like to do it is, number 1, the Bellstone Armory 1 piece gives you that 1% armor Regen. Absolutely viable. Mine came with triple god roll all around the board, max armor, max crit chance, crit damage, and a max crit damage mod. Pretty straightforward. Moving on to the holster is the second piece and the last piece golem, max armor, 4,000 armor Regen, and max crit damage for more DPS. And the last armor Regen pair is the named Murakami knees called the Emperor's Guard for max armor, that 1% unique armor Regen that these knee pads only give you, and 10.6% crit damage. Now, you can only find these knee pads in the Dark Zone and PvP caches, so pretty much in Dark Zone proficiency caches, conflict caches, and extraction via Dark Zone. So look out for these when Murakami's or knee pads are in the Dark Zone, so you can grab yourself a pair. And moving on to the final piece is the Contractor's Gloves for that final multiplicative damage. Just kind of add a little embellishment on top for more DPS. Mine came with armor on the top that I did roll onto it, and it has an 8% damage to armor and 11.1% crit damage on the bottom, guys. So there it is. This is the 6 pieces that how I like to set it up. There's multiple ways that you can run an armor Regen build, but for me, I find this very useful because it still gives me the survivability and the damage that I need. Primary weapon of choice, yours can be the Lady Death if you like to, or if you want to swap out, you can do so as well. Now check out this secondary weapon, guys. That is so cool, and I believe no one is using this for RIDGEWAY's Pride build, and I can confidently say this because I don't see it in other people's builds. And this is called the Grudge. This is the name Banshee SMG that gives you the talent Perfect Vindictive. Killing an enemy with a status effect applied grants you and all your allies within 20 meters 18% crit chance and 18% crit damage for 20 seconds, guys. This is, man, I had this in my stash and I was like, hold up, like this can actually work with the status effect build. And since I'm utilizing the RIDGEWAY's Pride for an armor Regen build, it's like a double win. So if you guys would like to pull away from the usage of Lady Death, you can swap out for this gun as your primary. I actually tend to swap out in between here and there depending on the scenario and if I need the buff to be active again. It really depends, you know. But moving on to the skills, I have the Striker Ballistic ballistic shield for the 12% damage bonus, and the bleed stinger hive to support the armor regen of the second half of the description. Now let's go a bit under the hood and showcase the stats for this. I have 77,000 weapon damage, 25,963 PvP weapon damage, 58.8% critical hit chance, and 155.6% crit damage. And I do have 53,694 armor regen on this build, guys. Moving on to number 4 on the list, the standard crit SMG/Lady Death build with Intimidate and Adrenaline Rush. And now I get it, these two talents are pretty much the most saturated talents to use in PvP today, but hey, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it to you guys. There's nothing else in the game that beats 35% amplified weapon damage in 10 meters. It's part of the game, and you can't really, outweigh another person in dictating how they want to construct their builds and fight it against you, right? So because of that, you kind of want to stay within the meta zone just to give you that edge in clinching out the fight. But if you want to go for more off meta and just have some fun and that's your goal, then cool. But this is the build that I want to show you that is top tier of the current update today. So primary weapon is obviously the Lady Death for the amplified damage. Reason being is for the talent here, Breathe Free, that gives you amplified 60% damage when you're moving. So when you're moving, you gain 4 stacks per second and 8 stacks if you're sprinting, up to 32 stacks in total. So pretty much in 4 seconds when you stack, you'll be at max stack, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's very quick, very efficient, and super convenient. And after that first kill, assuming you get it, you will gain a 20% movement speed for 10 seconds, guys. So there it is. This is the reason why this gun is so overused on PvP, but it's hard to not use it, and I get it. Even for me, I challenge myself every now and then to not use the same gun, just to have some fun. But when I want to take the PvP match a little bit more serious and win it with my clan, then I do utilize this weapon here. Secondary gun is pretty much any SMG or any other weapon you like. It's really not important, don't worry about it too much. Mine says the SIG MPX. I got Sprained as the talent on the bottom, and max SMG damage, 20% crit chance, and 10% damage to target out of cover. Now let's get down to the 6 pieces. First and foremost, the Coyote's mask, guys, is super viable. Since you are going to play up close, you might as well get an added bonus onto your damage by slapping on this mask right here. This exotic gives you 25% crit damage just by being 0 to 15 meters of you and your opponent. So not only are you going to be getting the 25% crit damage buff, but it'll also be shared to your allies as well. So definitely a really good supporting DPS mask here. Now moving on to the chest plate, I have my first piece Sokolov triple god roll all around the board for the 1-piece SMG damage and the 2-piece crit damage boost. I have a max weapon damage that I did optimize, max crit chance, crit damage, and a crit damage mod, and the talent is obviously Intimidate. While he has bonus armor, amplifies total weapon damage by 35% to enemies within 10 meters. And pairing this up, it is the Grupo Sombra backpack for the extra 15% crit damage. I did roll a blue core attribute on top. I have a 5.1% crit chance, 10.9% crit damage, and 11.9 crit damage mod. And the talent is Adrenaline Rush. Whenever you are within 10 meters of an enemy, you gain 10% bonus armor for 5 seconds and stacks up to 3 times. So 30% is the max stack that you can get within 3 enemies. Moving on to the 4th piece is the last piece Sokolov. I have a blue core attribute on top, 6.5% weapon handling, and 11.2% crit damage. Now ideally, I would like to have some crit chance in there, but after seeing the statistics at the end for my build, I realized, hey, a little bit weapon handling does not hurt the build at all, because it does give you 4 of the categories of boost in stability, weapon swap speed, accuracy, and reload speed. So it's not a deal breaker at all. Now for the final embellishment of the build, I wanted to sprinkle on some multiplicative damage, since I am going to be playing up close to maximize the most amount of crits I possibly can. And the first and foremost, I got the Contractor's Gloves for the 8% damage to armor. I have 11.1% crit damage on the bottom and a blue core attribute that I did roll on top. And finally, the Fox's Prayer for the damage to target out of cover, 8% also multiplicative by the way, and 11.4% crit damage on the bottom that I'm still in the progress of optimizing. And I did roll another blue core attribute on top, and I have 4 blues on this build for that extra survivability, sitting at 1.5. I feel like that is a safe cushion in PvP as of today's date, simply because of the time to kill is so fast. So let's move on to the skills. I have the Striker Ballistic Shield for the damage bonus, and I have an EMP Sticky Bomb for that close range disruption and stagger. Guys, if you guys don't know, the EMP Sticky Bomb, when you get hit with this, not only does it stagger you, which is so viable in PvP, because it gives you that split 1 second time window to dish out as much burst damage as you can to your opponent. Specialization is the Firewall for the close range damage boost. And now let's go a little bit under the curtain and showcase the statistics for this build. I'm sitting for 24,797 PvP weapon damage and 57.1% crit chance and 184.5% crit damage. So as you can see, that extra weapon handling that I had earlier does not affect the crit chance at all, and it's great because even if I had it, it would have filled over at 60 anyway, so it's kind of like a waste of an attribute. So I feel like weapon handling for me was perfect. As long as you're within about 55% crit chance for an SMG build, then you're pretty much gold. And with the Coyotes mask plus the additional 25%, it bumps me up to 209.5% crit damage. So don't sleep on the Coyotes. It gives you that extra damage that you need. 1v1s that is viable, and with the Lady Death, you are gonna completely hit hard with this build, trust me. Moving on to number 3, we got the Hazard Protection SMG build that is completely viable because of this current title update that is pretty much a skill build patch, guys, and it's hard to just get by with all the tier 6 bleed hives, the burn sticky bombs, the mortars, just all the cheats pretty much in the build. It's difficult to get by if you don't have some hazard protection with you. I put this above the crit SMG build for number 4 simply because it gives that immunity, and that's essential for survivability, because if you're put on fire, you can't ADS, and if you can't ADS, you can't do damage, right? So hazard protection is needed, guys. So primary weapon is the Tactical Vector SBR. I wanted to kind of use something different that's not the Lady Death. I have damage to armor on it, 14.6% SMG damage, 18.5% crit chance, and I do have the talent Strain. You can't go with Insync if you feel like Insync is more comfortable, but just the same as the Lady Death, I wanted to experiment with other and older talents and just kind of keep things fresh and kind of shine them more in the light. So Strain is the way to go for me. You can go with Optimist. Measured is a really good alternative as well. I might even go back to Measured. Now let's get down to the pieces. Number 1, I got the Sokolov mask for max armor on top. I have a 10.5% crit damage, max hazard, and a max crit damage mod. Pretty much in a hazard protection build, what you want to have in all your 6 pieces if possible is crit damage and max hazard protection. And I know it's difficult in getting some of these pieces with max hazard and crit damage on it, but yeah, that's part of the grind, guys. If you are able to farm well and you have some RNG on your favor, I would even recommend try to farm with some buddies as well. That way, if they already have the pieces, they can drop it for you. Moving on to the second piece is the second Sokolov for the 15% crit damage. I have 14.6% weapon damage, max crit damage, max hazard that I did roll, and a max crit damage mod. And the talent that we are going to be utilizing with this build is the Intimidate and Adrenaline Rush combo, guys. You named it, you called it, still best in the game, call it what you want. Now moving on to the backpack, we got the first piece Seska. 2-piece Seska is going to be viable to this build because it gives you an additional 10% hazard protection boost that is super needed. I'm sitting for 12.6% weapon damage, max crit damage, and 9.6% hazard protection and 6% crit chance, and the talent that I'm utilizing is the Adrenaline Rush. Moving on to the gloves, I got the 1-piece Y'all gear for the hazard protection boost. You can only find Y'all pieces in PvP content such as Conflict and Dark Zone caches, as well as Extraction via Dark Zone. So you cannot find these in the open PvE world. It has to be PvP caches only, guys. You only need 1 pair of these for the 10% hazard protection. I do have max armor on top, max crit damage that I did roll, and an already max hazard protection that it came on the piece. Pretty much a triple god roll. Very nice. Now moving on to the knees, I got the last piece Seska for the final 10% hazard protection. Blue core attribute on top, 10.5% crit damage, and 8.7% hazard protection. Now the last but not least, wild card of this build is the Grupo Sombra. The reason being is because it gives you that additional 15% crit damage that is essential, because I get it, hazard protection builds are hard to make, not only because you have to have hazard and crit damage onto the pieces already, that way you can roll some blue core attributes depending on your other pieces. But you also lose on some of the brand set bonus from the pieces, since you have to invest in 2-piece Sesko, 1 Y'all, and 2 Sokolov, which does help. But you know, having additional boost is gonna definitely help in there to kind of pass the 150-160 crit damage mark, and the Grupo Sombra does that for you. Max armor on top, max hazard, and a max crit damage mod. Pretty much got lucky with this piece. I forgot how and when I got it, but I remember I think I got it in a cache a long time ago. Skills that we are using is a strike ballistic shield. Since we are going to be playing up close range, you might as well have some protection with you. Secondary is the MP sticky bomb. I love playing this skill up close simply for, man, the underrated stagger. Knocks him off guard, makes him vulnerable, and gives him disruption for 10 whole seconds. You cannot beat that. It's really good personally for me. I know how to preemptive my shot. You only get 1 shot with this, so you want to hit it on the mark if possible and get some practice with it. But if you land it, it's a high risk, high reward, and boom, you got them in that position. Now let's go behind the curtain and showcase the statistics for the build. We got 24,910 PvP weapon damage, 54.5% crit chance, and 173% crit damage. So boom, there it is, guys. I cannot stress it enough. You need 2-piece Sokolov and 1-piece Grupo for this build, because it's going to help you get past that threshold of 160% crit damage. So, you know, if you guys want to substitute 1 Grupo for something else that you feel like is essential, you can. But again, guys, this is my template. I want to have as much damage in my arsenal as possible when I play up close, because the time to kill is so fast. You want to have every advantage to your position as possible. Moving on to build number 2, which is one of my favorite builds to use of all time, simply because it has so much damage up close. And this particular weapon catches a lot of people off guard, because they don't realize that their armor is being depleted in chunks. You know, so many people kind of get tunnel vision as they're engaging within the enemy they're firing, but sometimes you may not realize you're being dished out on damage too, and you might be put on half or even red because a build hits so hard. This is the damage to armor shotgun build that absolutely slaps. So let's get down to it. Shotgun is the custom MH70 MCS, pretty much the best shotgun in the game. I can attest to that, because it has never let me down up close, not too clunky. The only con I would give this is the 5 bullet in the mag, so you do have to be a bit careful in landing your shots, as the reload process will push you in a vulnerable position, so make your shots count. Mine is sitting for 1.3 million damage with 75 RPM on the gun. I got max attributes pretty much all around the board, 15% shotgun damage, 12% damage to armor, and max damage to target out of cover, and the talent in sync. Hitting an enemy grants 15% skill damage for 5 seconds, but what we want is that second half. And using the skill or damaging enemy with a skill grants you 15% weapon damage for 5 seconds. But if you have both buffs active, damage increases are double while both buffs are active at the same time. So pretty much you can net up to 30% weapon damage by using the skill and landing your first bullet on your enemy. Very simple to use and it's very powerful. Moving on to the secondary weapon is the Lady Death, simply for an exchange in case I'm reloading and I need to finish off, whatever the case may be. Specialization, now this is really important because since we are utilizing the shotgun, I want to make the recommendation of using the firewall for the extra damage up close bonus. Let's get down to the piece. First piece is the mask for the 1-piece Grupo Sombra. Triple god roll all around the board. A beautiful piece. Blue core sheet on top. I have max crit damage, max crit chance, and a max crit damage on the bottom. Moving on to the backpack, guys. You're gonna need 2-piece Walker and Harris for this, for the max damage to armor. I have 15% weapon damage, 6% crit chance, 10.8% crit damage, and max crit damage mod on the bottom. And the talent gives you perfect adrenaline rush. Whenever you are within 10 meters of an enemy, you gain 23% bonus armor for 5 seconds and stacks up to 3 times. And keep in mind we're playing PvP, so instead of 10%, it jumps up to 12 in the perfect version, so you can gain up to 36% total bonus armor. Now moving on to the backpack, you got the first piece Badger Tough for the 10% shotgun bonus. I did roll a armor core on top, 5% crit chance, an armor regen in there, which is not bad. Ideally I like to have some crit damage in there, but you know, it is what it is. And I do have an 11.9% crit damage mod on the bottom. And the talent is obviously Intimidate. When you have bonus armor, amplifies your total weapon damage by 35% to enemies within 10 meters. And since we are utilizing the shotgun, you do want to run the max damage talent as possible. And I feel like overstating this once again, but it's really difficult to not run a talent that's supporting for your DPS that tops Intimidate. But if it's really powerful, why not use it, guys? Now the alternative to the Adrenaline Rush Intimidate combo, if you feel like you don't want to use it or it's not your playstyle, is the Unbreakable Versatile combo. And for the chestplate specifically, you can substitute for the Badger Tough Perfectly Unbreakable to give you an additional 5% repairment of your armor. That way you have some survivability, and Versatile is going to give you 25% amplified damage for your DPS that you need. Now moving on to the Contractor's Gloves, which is pretty much a need in a damage to armor build. I got a blue core attribute on top that I did roll, max damage to armor, and 11.1% crit damage on the bottom. Guys, this piece is needed. I will showcase the stats at the end to prove how much damage to armor I have, but this one right here gives you that big boost that you need. Moving on to the holster, I got the last piece Walker and Harris for the final damage to armor. Pretty much a triple god roll. I got max weapon damage, max crit chance, and a max crit damage mod. Pretty straightforward. And the last but not least, the wild card of this build that throws people off, and I get this a lot too, like Lotus, like why do you have a Seska in your shotgun build? Reason being, crit chance. Like the one piece alone, pretty much straightforward. And the reason, if you think about it, put it back into math and into the battlefield, is if you take a look at the shotgun, what are the attributes that come into it? All offensive statistics. Shotgun damage, you have damage to armor and damage to target out of cover. But just like the Lady Death or any other SMG in the game, it does not come with critical hit chance. If you notice, it gives you a huge chunk of crit chance too, 20%. That is not a little bit. That's pretty much like a two-piece Seska. So you have a lot of cushion to work with in just pretty much substituting in the gaps for crit damage. Now for shotgun builds, it's the opposite. You don't have that. You have all offensive stats, which is great, but hey, another piece and element to your damage is crit chance, right? Because when you hit your crit, it does more damage than your raw white number base damage. So how do you get more crits? Crit chance. And how to get crit chance? Seska. And I'll showcase the stats at the end to prove it again. A max armor on top, 4% crit chance, and a max crit damage mod. Skills that I'm utilizing is the Striker Shield for the extra damage boost, obviously, and the EMP Sticky Bomb. I don't know pretty much why I'm still saying what I run for my secondary skill when I'm playing up close. You guys probably already know if you watch my videos. It's pretty much 80% of the time EMP Sticky Bomb. Depending on the scenario, I'll swap out to a Bleed Stinger Hive or a Pulse. You know, it really depends, but if it's to have DPS, EMP Sticky Bomb is easy to use for me. Now let's go under the hood and showcase the stats. I got 1,287,000 weapon damage and 300,000 PvP weapon damage, 57% crit chance. Look at this, guys, 57. This pretty much feels like an AR build. I'm way over the crit chance mark that's needed, and I have 153.8% crit damage. But we're not even done. Check out the last stack, which is why I give this name the 2-tap dirt nap. We got max 25% armor damage, guys. This is the reason why you can pretty much 2-tap any player who has about 2 blues and under. 3 armor cores and up is when it tends to scale. Really depends on how much crit damage you have at the end and how much attributes you have on your gun as well. But there it is. This is literally my second go-to build whenever I like playing up close, simply because it does so much damage, guys. I love seeing the panic in people when they realize, like, oh man, I'm already down to like less than half of my armor. I need to pull back for a med kit. I love that. You can smell the fear, and that's what this build gives to you guys. So there it is, shotgun build. Hope you guys liked it. Now moving on to the final build, which is the #1 spot for me, guys, will always be called Rest in Peace. This is the best, or if not one of the best AR builds in the game. I can highly attest to this. I've been running it since TU10, since the Instinct talent came out, and it's never let me down. So powerful. Let's get down to the build. Primary weapons is the FAL. This gun, like, absolutely slaps. Reason being, the low RPM of the gun gives you more base damage. My personal preference, I love playing with guns that have low firing rate because I love that high risk, high reward of dishing out more damage per bullet compared to a FAMAS. As you can see, we have 110 base damage with 650 RPM. FAMAS has literally dropped 20, which is a lot. This is the highest firing rate in the game. game, and I definitely feel it when I start putting on a G36 sitting around the 750 RPM, definitely in the Police M4 range as well. I feel the lack of damage, so for me I just always stick with the FAL. Very easy to use, not clunky, accurate, is pretty much one of the top, if not the top 2 guns in the game. Talent on the gun is in sync for 30% weapon damage. You can go with measured if you feel so. You can go with Optimus, Strain, those are all great alternatives to use. I do have max assault rifle damage that I did fully optimize, in the progress of capping out the health damage, currently at 17%, and at max damage to target out of cover, guys. This attribute right here, for all of your assault rifles, I highly recommend putting on damage to target out of cover, because it's going to give you the extra scaling crit numbers at the end, like about the final half of the magazine. And one day I will drop a damage to armor and damage to target out of cover compare and contrast video to prove what I'm saying, but currently as of right now I always run damage to target out of cover for me because it does extra damage. Secondary is the Eagle Bear, just to proc tenacity if I need so for the final kill. So let's get down to the build. First piece is the Grupo Sombra. The one piece gives you that 50% crit damage that you need. I did roll a blue core attribute on top, 12% crit damage, max crit chance, and 11.9% crit damage mod. Moving on to, that gives this build its name, the Spotter. Amplifies total weapon and skill damage by 15% to pulse enemy. Keep in mind, amplified means multiplicative, so there's more damage than additive. One piece of Fenris in there for the extra AR damage. I got max weapon damage, max stats pretty much all around the board. It's a beautiful chestplate that I did receive on a legendary mission a while back. Moving on to the backpack is the name Providence Defense backpack called the Gift, and like the name says, the gift gives you a gift of perfect vigilance, increases total weapon damage by 25%, and taking damage disables this buff for 3 seconds. Now keep in mind, if you guys don't have this, the only difference from perfect vigilance and normal vigilance is the 1 second in the damage disablement. Perfect gives you 3 while the regular gives you 4. How to obtain this backpack is in Dark Zone and Conflict caches, pretty much in all PvP caches, as well as Dark Zone extraction. So look out for any Providence Defense in Dark Zone as well as backpacks there. That will be your best time to extract this piece. Mine has a max weapon damage that I fully optimized, currently in the progress of finishing out my crit damage, sitting at 11.4% right now and 6% max crit chance, and a final max crit damage mod on the bottom. Now moving on to the gloves, we got the second piece Providence for the 10% crit chance. You do want to have at least some sort of bracelet that gives you a crit chance in there, because it is difficult to raise crit chance on AR builds, whether you do it by 1-piece Seska or 2-piece Providence, that's up to you guys. I have a max weapon damage, max crit chance, and a max crit damage mod, triple god roll all around the board, pretty straightforward. Moving on to the holster, I got the final Providence. I do have blue core attribute on top that I rolled this time, 5.4% crit chance and 11.2% crit damage. And the last but not least, one of my favorite multiplicative damage pieces in the game, the Fox's Prayer. You ever heard of an atheist and a foxhole? Me neither. Blue core attribute on top, max damage to target out of cover, 11.4% crit damage that I'm currently optimizing. Beautiful piece here that gives you the extra multiplicative DPS that you need. Moving on to the skills, we got the Crusader Shield. I have a tier 4 into this for the 3 blues, an additional technician class that gives you that 1% skill tier, and the decoy as my secondary. And guys, the decoy for me AR build is so viable, because since you want to dish out damage from range, you want to make sure that the opponent cannot detect where you are, right? That way you're kind of in a position of just beaming him, you know, and it makes you pretty much like a ghost. It takes the nameplate off of you and puts it onto the decoy. Now before we get into the statistics, I do want to make one point here that I forgot. You do want to run the technician class because you need the link laser pointer that only the technician class gives you, and this attachment is only applicable to assault rifles with a long underbarrel, such as the FAL. Honey Badger is one as well that it can use. The FAMAS cannot equip it, is too small for that, so that's a deal breaker for you FAMAS users right there. Now let's move on to the stats. I'm sitting for 110,000 weapon damage, 44,000 PvP weapon damage, 59.4% crit chance and 180.9% crit damage. So there it is. This is pretty much my assault rifle build. Hope you guys liked it. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and smash that like button and subscribe if you're new. Welcome to the channel. It did take me a while to make this video, and I hope you guys found it useful. Appreciate you, and I'll catch you guys in the future. Peace.